Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing a review of Riley Sager's latest novel, Middle of the Night. Mine is a signed copy. I'm really excited about this. I got this at Little City Books in Hoboken, which is one of my favorite little tiny bookshops. It's really cute. I used to live in Hoboken and I used to go there all the time, and I went and visited the other day, and it was like, I think on the day that this released. So I was able to pick this up, and surprisingly it was signed and it was awesome. So here we have it. For those of you guys who do not know, Riley Sager is one of those authors that I absolutely love. I understand that he's one of those authors that people really do either love or hate. I am definitely somebody who loves Riley Sager's work. If you're unfamiliar with Riley Sager's work, he writes primarily thrillers, and his big thing is he writes these crazy twists. If you're a fan of like Catriona Ward, like The Last House on Needless Street and stuff like that, kind of in the same vein, except he primarily focuses on mysteries, unlike kind of chaotic, swirling world that is Catriona Ward's writing. His are very straightforward, like mystery thrillers. Most of his books tend to focus on the idea of making the reader think something supernatural is happening, and then blindsiding you at the end and revealing that there was not anything supernatural going on at all. He does have at least one book in which his twist is kind of, yes, it is a supernatural concept, and you kind of go in thinking it's not going to be, which I kind of liked, kind of didn't. But Riley Sager is one of those authors that he's an instant buy for me. Every time he comes out with a new release, I have to pick it up. Last Time I Lied is the first book I ever read from him. Really introduced me to his work. The ending blew my mind. I love that book. Absolutely loved Home Before Dark. Wasn't the biggest fan of Survive the Night, or what was it, Cabin Across the Lake? The House Across the Lake. But his last release, The Only One Left, I loved. It was kind of his like tribute to the Lizzie Borden case, and it was just, had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I didn't see one of the major twists coming, and so I knew I had to pick up Middle of the Night when this came out, and I read it. I devoured this book, and that's how I feel about most Riley Sager books, even the ones that I'm not the biggest fan of, or the ones where I figure out the twist, which has only happened really once, and that was in Survive the Night. I'm always super invested in his writing, and I read his books super quickly. I'm gonna read the back, or the inside flap of this book for you guys really quickly. The worst thing to ever happen on Hemlock Circle occurred in Ethan Marsh's backyard. One July night, 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend and neighbor Billy fell asleep in a tent set up on a manicured lawn in a quiet, quaint New Jersey cul-de-sac. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. During the night, someone had sliced the tent open with a knife and taken Billy. He was never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan has reluctantly returned to his childhood home. Plagued by bad dreams and insomnia, he begins to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night. Someone seems to be roaming the cul-de-sac at odd hours, and signs of Billy's presence keep appearing in Ethan's backyard. Is someone playing a cruel prank, or has Billy, long thought to be dead, somehow returned to Hemlock Circle? The mysterious occurrences prompt Ethan to investigate what really happened that night, a quest that reunites him with former friends and neighbors and leads him into the woods that surround Hemlock Circle. Woods where Billy claimed ghosts roamed, and where a mysterious institute does clandestine research on a crumbling estate. The closer Ethan gets to the truth, the more he realizes that no place, be it quiet forest or suburban street, is completely safe, and that the past has a way of haunting the present. I loved this book. This book is told on two different timelines, the night of Billy's disappearance, and then it is spliced in between present day with Ethan trying to solve the mystery on his own 30 years later in this little New Jersey cul-de-sac. And my grandparents live right outside of Princeton. This is set right outside of Princeton, and so I could really absolutely see the setting of this book. It made so much sense to me. And like kind of like the ominous woods behind the suburban cul-de-sac and the kind of like nosy neighbors. Everything about this book just felt so tangible and realistic to me. And I found the kids to be extremely believable. I really loved the descriptions of Billy and Russ and Ethan as children, and fast forward to Russ and Ethan and even Ashley as adults. I loved everything about it. What I was really surprised by is I thought I had figured out the twist, and I figured out one element of it, but there are about 4 or 5 elements to this novel that are completely out of left field. Couldn't figure them out entirely, And when they happen, like, it's almost like a red herring. Like, you might be able to figure out 1 or 2 of the plot points, but the rest of it completely blindsided me. And when I looked back on what the actual reveals were, it was so obvious that that had to be what happened. And I loved that. I loved that I wasn't able to figure out what was going on, and then once it was revealed, it absolutely made sense looking back. Riley Sager does a really good job of laying all of the groundwork for the reader in a way that is so hidden in plain sight. This is definitely one of the stronger novels I have read from Riley Sager. It's up there with The Only One Left and The Last Time I Lied. I think The Only One Left I still liked more. Just because I love the Lizzie Borden case so much, and just seeing how much love and attention went into that was amazing for me. However, I think the twists and the reveals in this novel were a little bit more well done and fleshed out. And I just found this book also really, really, like, beautiful and devastating. There was a serious moment of humanity in this storyline pertaining to Ethan and his ex-wife Claudia, and I really, really loved that storyline and that scene, and I think it was handled in such a beautiful way, and the whole collapse of their marriage and the way that Riley Sager writes about it, I thought was absolutely amazing. And it's something that I think has been missing in a lot of Riley Sager's books, these kind of like nods to the human condition and imperfections of our main character that are sometimes things that are outside of their control, and the idea of guilt carrying over. I think the way that he wrote Ethan was absolutely phenomenal, and he's definitely one of the strongest lead characters, and definitely the most developed and emotional character I think we've ever received from Riley Sager, at least in the books that I've read, and I've read almost all of his novels at this point. So I really, really, really loved this. I know people don't love Riley Sager because they think everything is too twisty and turny, or they want the supernatural elements to be there. And I just think it's so much more fun when you go into a book like this and you know that there's going to be rational explanations for the ghosts. And that is a kind of trending thing with Riley Sager, is there is always this sort of rational explanation for these supernatural elements happening, and you have to try and dig and find out what that is. And I think the way that this book does it might be my favorite by far. I also think all of the characters in this story were extremely well developed. Both their younger selves as well as their older present-day counterparts. Like I said earlier, I really loved Russ and Ethan and Billy as children. I found them extremely believable. I really loved the very few chapters in which we were inside Billy's head. I think it just made so much sense from a child's point of view, and his just love of ghosts and his like sense of wonder and his wanting to learn more and more and more. And I really, really loved that. And then you compare it with Ethan and his guilt over the situation and this kind of survivor's guilt that he carries with him, not only when he's 10 years old, but all the way up until his 40s, I think was just done so well. And it's something that is so believable for a kid to blame themselves for when it's not even their fault. I just found it absolutely phenomenal. I loved Ashley. I thought she was a really unique and interesting character, as well as Ragesh. I thought he was an interesting way to do the school bully turned cop. I think that's something that we kind of see a lot as a cliche character, but I think this novel did a really, really good job of developing that caricature and making it feel more like a real tangible person and less of a cliche and less of a commonly used character archetype. Sorry, I can't talk today. I really, really enjoy that. And then just kind of the concept of all of the neighbors surrounding, this kind of like the neighborhood watch, if you can't do anything without the neighbors seeing. I thought that was a really, really interesting take on this, especially considering the kind of juxtaposition between the nosy neighbors of the 90s versus the nosy neighbors of today, and how just everything lined up and everything was so related and so well done. I feel like there's pretty much for me only one real unanswered question in the entirety of the story, and that would be Russ's older brother Johnny. I feel like that needed a little bit more closure. It kind of felt a little open-ended to me. I don't necessarily think it was open-ended, but there's just so many moments where it's alluding that there might be more to that story than there is, and I feel like we never really get the answers to that. So I would have liked to see more from that. And then just going back to just how likable these child characters were. You obviously have our main leads from the 90s, but in the 2024 storyline, you also have Henry. And while I'm not 100% sure that a 10-year-old would ever speak the way that Henry does, he is such a likable character. And him as kind of a plot device for both Ethan and Ashley, I think works so well to kind of push the story along and push the story to get to the conclusions that it needs to have. And I just really liked that. I love that every single character in the story served a very definite purpose. They weren't just put there to round out the story and have like a larger neighborhood. Almost every character that we interact with serves a purpose to connect to the mystery of this story, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing. Another thing that I love about these Riley Sager stories is if you're into true crime, you'll probably really connect with a lot of his thrillers. A lot of them are kind of loosely inspired by cases that have existed previously, such as like the Lizzie Borden case, or they are kind of amalgamations of a lot of things that happen in true crime that we see over and over again, and they kind of read like a narration of a case. You really do get to look at like not necessarily the case files and the evidence before it, but it's all laid out for you to try and piece it together yourself while reading, and of course you're going to get to the final reveal, and it's going to be this completely crazy reveal. But again, in some of Riley Sager's strongest works, everything always connects, and most of those plot points are hidden in plain sight. And I just think this is one of the best books that Sager has ever written, and I am so thrilled with it. I'm going to leave it up to you on what you guys think about whether there were supernatural elements in this book or not. He does a really good job of kind of fleshing it out, and you can kind of pick and choose how you want to see it at the end. But I was really impressed with this. So this was a 5-star read for me. Like, Riley Sager is just one of those authors who he very rarely disappoints, and when he does not live up to kind of the 4 or 5-star books that I have, it's usually him trying something new, trying something different, and I never want to hold that against an author. It's something that Darcy Coates has been doing a lot, like really stepping out of her formula and really stepping out of her comfort zone and trying new things, and I love seeing that with authors. But sometimes there's something that they are the best at and they do so well, and their writing is so strong and crisp, and I feel like this and then The Only One Left, his last 2 releases, are just like hitting the nail on the head, and I cannot wait to see what he has next. I really loved this book. So definite 5 stars across the board. I was thrilled with that novel. I really couldn't put it down. Like, I only put it down when I had to go and like work and do other things. It was so much fun. Anyways, that is all that I have for today. As always, I try to post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Mwah.